and welcome. It is Sunday, July 8th in the year 2018. Before we start reading, I have a couple books that I've set aside. We'll wait for a few people to join the live stream. I'm going to be focusing on doing a few readings. One of the books, Joel Goldsmith, Awakening to Mystical Consciousness. Now, I'm going to be focusing on reading just a few select portions, right? So I'll be able to say hello. Remember to thumb up as you join the live stream. Feel free to share the live stream with other people that are open to this modern Gnostic thought with regards to the global conspiracy. With regards to understanding Gnostic thought, I think a lot of people out there in the audience understand that there are people that will use religions. People will even use Gnosticism to promote their own propaganda. We've seen examples of this. So when we look at Gnostic literature, so much of it is up for interpretation, but it's very different than the Orthodox Christianity, right? But just briefly giving some reference to that, there is an entire history of persecution of people that have preached or shared Gnostic literature. And so there's a whole bloody history behind that somebody may be interested in learning about. But today we have the modern witch hunts for those people that are speaking their gnosis. So we still have the same old world politics, if you will, existing in this world, where somebody with an outside the box idea is easily labeled crazy. How much of an evolution has a society gone in? How much more does it need to evolve to where it understands certain things and has a certain level of openness? So as a result of the corruption that we've seen from these many Orthodox religions, a lot of people have turned away from the idea of spirit. And I have thought throughout the entirety of my whole life that that's been part of the agenda, almost, to hijack the idea of God, if you will, and then to really demonize the idea of God in the minds of a lot of humans that have, a lot of people aren't from cultures and societies to where it's really encouraged to go within for the answers. This is a society today where people still mislabel that as something satanic, where we talk about going within. And it's interesting to see the persecution of the modern Gnostics and how much it parallels what happened in the old world. So in just a few minutes, we're going to start reading. Before we get to the Gnostic Gospels, this is one book, and I think I even purchased this from the thrift store. Taking a look at the comment section. Love the live videos. I love the fact that you're there. Yesterday went really great, right? Sure, I get a little annoyed that YouTube will demonetize like what it is that I'm saying and doing. It's a little bit bizarre because I really want to enjoy this experience. So I'm going to enjoy it anyways, right? Occasionally someone drops in a super chat and I appreciate that, but nothing's expected. I appreciate the positive energy that we have going on here. And I think that one of the things that I noticed from last night's stream, it was the most positive experience that I can recall doing a live stream ever, period, ever on the internet. Is that because of something that I'm doing? Is it because of something that you're feeling? Is it something in the air? Are we just going with the flow of something positive? Saturday is the Sabbath. Sunday is the first, buddy. Not being critical. I've heard people say that Sunday or Saturday rather is the real day of worship. But this is not a Orthodox, right, religious YouTube channel. So when we talk about like what day should we be focused on spirituality, well, that's every moment of every day. Every moment of every day is a moment to look at our own gnosis, our own inner truth. And it's not going to be understood necessarily by the people around us, but when we really understand the world that we're in, we understand that we're going to come across that that challenge to our own gnosis. What do you think you know? What are you doing going outside the box? And like so much of our society and our current matrix is built upon that. I mean, think about all the mainstream Orthodox churches where people are meeting today. At the moment that I'm speaking to you now, someone somewhere is sitting in a church. How many of those churches are forgetting to talk about compassion? How many of those churches today are calling out the beast system for what it is? So I want to thank you guys for being here. We have 8 people watching. So I'm just going to read like a little bit from a number of different books. In 1995, David Icke wrote, "And the truth shall set you free," right? Regardless of your opinions on David Icke, right? Some of the stuff that he wrote in the early days really strikes a chord. How many of these churches are willing to take in the homeless? Before I start reading, and hello, Chase Browning as well. Hello to all of you that are joining today. And of course, I'm disappointed with YouTube demonetizing simple spiritual videos. That's just weird, guys. That's just weird. Yeah, until the next day after everybody watched it. But we're going to keep going with this because I know that people are benefiting from this. I'm striking a chord. There are people that have the gall to go to church and curse the homeless. So we're not going to spend our whole hour here bashing others. We're going to try to get to the bottom of some truth that perhaps is going to help us throughout the day. I don't know what I'm going to do after this stream. Maybe I'll go for a walk, feeling a little bit hungry, haven't eaten breakfast yet, right? But I feel like expressing my spirit as the first thing that I do today on this Sunday. It's not about being religious. It's about at this moment, right, where people are seeking, and this is a day where traditionally people are thinking about the supposed idea of God. I'd like to sprinkle some truth into this. Now, chapter 20, "I Love You, Dr. Kissinger" is the title. No, David Icke and other conspiracy researchers don't love, in the sense that we're thinking romantically, Dr. Kissinger. But it's about going beyond hate and anger. So we can replace this and say, "I love you, Donald Trump." You know, "I love you, George Bush." "I love you, New World Order." "I love you, Barack Obama," right? To start this off, this chapter 20. I'm just going to read, it's only a page or two. "This book has been written with honesty, without fear, and the desire to uncover the cause of the ills of this planet and the means through which we can heal them. Not every last fact will be 100% accurate." This is the conclusion of the book. "Nor every assumption, because we are dealing with people and organizations who wish that such information remains hidden, dispersing the smoke screens in a life's work. I have come from the direction of no religious, racial, or political dogma. I only wish to challenge the imposition of belief systems by those who use violence, fear, guilt, and the suppression of information. I also desire for love to fill this planet and for all humanity to access its full and infinite potential. If anyone decides to take parts of this book out of context and pronounce it racist, they will be making a statement about their own state of being, not mine. I wouldn't know how to be racist if my life depended on it. I seek freedom for myself, for humanity, and for this planet and all her life forms." Notice he references her. That the feminine reference to this divine spirit is Gnostic in nature, where the Orthodox Christian dominant, this would include Judaism and Islam, male dominated, that doesn't recognize the feminine. So notice even subtle elements of Gnostic thought that's still being persecuted in literature like this, which would go into the category of modern Gnosticism, or modern Gnostic thought that has been written within the course of our lifetimes, not thousands of years ago. Ironically, there's just simply a parallel, interestingly enough, between literature like David Icke's work and stuff left over from the ancient world. But if there are those who believe or claim to believe otherwise, that is their right. But I know what is in my heart, and that is good enough for me. Such people will benefit too from remembering that their children and grandchildren, whatever color, culture, or background, will have to live in the world that we leave them. Would they prefer us to leave them freedom or the new world order? To be accused of racism when you have love and freedom in your heart can be frustrating, but no scale of criticism will stop me. It is time for humanity to stop running away. It is time to let go of fear. He talks about it begins with self as far as the solution. I don't have to set out new economic and political structures and tell people how they must live to create a better society. Who the hell am I to tell someone who they should do what they should do anyway? I know what is right for me, not you. From the transformation of mind which love, respect, and forgiveness of self will trigger. All these other answers will naturally evolve. We have the tyrannical structures of today. Turning pages. Reading a book with one hand, holding the mic with the other, right? The reality of the collective mind is created by its attitude itself. When we change that attitude, we change the world. The pyramid becomes a circle. The human race in general doesn't like itself, let alone love itself. Does any of this sound familiar? That is reflected in the physical reality. When love abounds within us, love will wrap its arms around the planet. And it is on that foundation that all else will follow. And then it gets into some other sections. So that's going to be kind of an introduction. And again, thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing this information with others. Thank you for being a part of the audience. Joel Goldsmith, Awakening Mystical Consciousness, right? We're going to look at the comments and then get into this as we kind of open up. And a lot of people are opening up, praying today, right? But they're praying for themselves in the modern America. They're praying for their bank balances. They're praying for God to give them premier safety and protection so their forests don't burn as they support people literally going overseas and destroying civilizations forever and not even believing in a God that looks down upon things like that. Keep this in mind when people pray. We should seek, Alex is going free flow. We should seek only to keep spiritual company and to pray with those of pure heart. We should not mix our prayers with those that are praying out of selfishness, either for this world, materialism, this government, this military. It's good for us to pray for others, but not, or to pray in general, but not just simply for ourselves. We should pray for others, and we should understand that there is consequences for our actions. Okay. Having said that, that's what I think about when I read this passage. Go into a few comments. Straight up says, search for truth. Now, this is my type of Sunday service. And I'll be honest with you. It was a couple years ago. Susan, I miss you. You're not watching the stream. Susan in Seattle, but an old girlfriend of mine, she was a little bit on the Orthodox side. But I remember doing an Answer His Church series of videos in the year 2013. You know, I've been sharing my Gnostic ideas for a number of years now, and it was good to hear from an old friend, appreciated me speaking from the heart and not making it about politics. Because what I think that I represent, the things that I'm passionate about, it's not politics. It's the real nature of what we're doing in this world. We may be discussing things that are going on in the world, and that makes sense for the modern Gnostic to go, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, there are these people that say that they're speaking directly to God and their book has the ultimate, but here are their actual actions. Here's what they're actually doing. Are they actually going against the demiurge or the satanic consciousness, or are they serving it? Going back to, before I start reading the next passage, the Spark. I recommend you check out his YouTube channel. Also pray for him. He's going through spiritual attacks. And if you go to youtube.com/AlexSance, you're on the right side. You have Ultra Human and you have the Spark. I think he had a vision or a dream. And there was a group of like animal type characters, maybe alien type characters. And they were basically, or groups of beings that were doing evil things to others, murder and crushing skulls and things like that. And these people that were sacrificing these humans were being aided by other humans, right? They look totally human. They look like us, right? And they were literally serving these other entities that were destroying us. And it's like a lot of people are getting that vision that there are many humans amongst us that are under this global spell, that are in reality serving another consciousness. They may call it God, right? But when you look at the actual actions and the mentality, a lot of people have chosen to use some of these Orthodox churches, right, to hide their own corruption, and it goes deep. I'm gonna tell you, I went to a few churches in this town, and it felt very awkward. I didn't talk about that. I didn't air the videos, right, that I recorded, but I didn't talk to you about this. You don't know this. I already just walked into a number of Orthodox churches. If you guys are supposedly Christian, please don't treat me with fear when I walk in the door. Let's talk about God then. Let's talk about consciousness. Let's talk about the battle of good and evil. I have now gone to 3 different churches, including a semi, I guess we can call alternative church. I don't know if I would say new age church, alternative church based on the law of attraction beliefs of Ernest Holmes or something like that. And what I kept walking into was other people doing their thing. People more interested in building their own cult-like surrounding. And that type of heart-to-heart connection that I was seeking to maybe share a little bit about my experience living in this very rural part of Southern Colorado, and how I feel like I'm going through a test by having to keep the faith and things that you guys already know about, and basically almost like walking over the coals, if you will. Like, you can go off the grid in certain areas and live in freedom, but there's the price you pay as well by going away from the popular areas where people pay more to live there. You know what I'm saying? When you go off the beaten path and you're someone living off a few $100s a month, and you don't want to be homeless living in a vehicle, so you're willing to go live alongside nature, even if, you know, the social scene isn't so great. That's what I did a few years ago on my Gnostic path, to get closer to nature. You know, so my auric field, my energy is closer to trees around me in different directions, to where I'm closer to trees than I am necessarily to, you know, for example, an urban population. And I think that it is, it's unnatural for so many of us to be living like sardines in these dense population centers, where many of the people today are under direct social engineering. Mainstream Democrats and Republicans will deny this and just say that all the world's problems are all our society's problems. You could see the same thing in the UK and in Europe, but all the problems are the other political party. Reality is so much deeper than that. Reality is so much deeper than the one political party, like being like the devil. And people have literally like incorporated and brought in Orthodox Christianity, duality, right and wrong, evil and good. Yes, thumb up, thumb down, duality, thumb up, thumb down. They've brought that into political understandings, and it like adds to that split of consciousness. So let's talk about prayer from page 5. Living out the principle of oneself. And again, keep in mind, people like myself, others, we talk about like you have knowledge within you. People that say those things come under attack. It doesn't mean that by coming under attack that they take away our free speech, but there's this subtle spiritual war that supersedes time. It's like it's the same spiritual war and the same Gnostics, whether it be 2018 or the year 618 BC. It's the same spiritual war. Help those of you, as they say, remember who we are. Taking a quick glance at the comment section before I read the next section. Chase Browning says, I'm going through a lot of spiritual attacks. Again, we're coming off a full moon. I'm noticing now that are you guys noticing the aggression is not as high as it was a week ago? We're getting away from the full moon. Are you noticing that Portland riot coincided with the post-solar flares in the full moon? We're coming out of the full moon. Are you noticing still, right? Despite that people know that the full moon, lunatic, brings out that energy, especially when you sprinkle on some additional geomagnetic activity, that people know about this stuff. It's cause and effect. And so as we get further away from this last full moon, but see, we're coming up on this blood moon, and we're not getting deep into astrology here. Of course, Orthodox folks tell us that all this is of the devil, that we're not supposed to look at tides and magnetic field influences. We're not supposed to look at science. All of this is of the, and see, be aware of that. As people start looking for truth, that old world, Old Testament demiurge consciousness is going to keep reemerging, cursing us, quote, in the name of Yahweh. Stay in the YouTube comment sections. It's full of it. I come in the game of Yahweh. I'm an anonymous person on YouTube. I'm coming after you. Like, how many people of you have been threatened in the name of Yahweh by random trolls on YouTube? I mean, if that isn't a sign that there's a form of subtle possession over those that think they're serving God, I don't know what is. But this is reason for concern. The chat box, by the way, pops up and pops down because I don't have the best on my end internet connection, but we have been blessed, right? We can find a way to curse technology, and we can find a way to talk about how there's a lot of dark things on the internet, but ultimately we are now at a level to where we can transmute ideas. In the past, certain ideas had to be buried in the ground because the people that were sharing those ideas were being hunted by the orthodox ruling establishment. And even though you see a lot of people that say things like, that they're anti-religious, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're seeking to know what the truth is. That doesn't mean they're seeking knowledge or gnosis. A lot of people that hate Christians, some of them are repelled by the idea of the creator as well. A lot of people, especially on the mainstream controlled left, are on a witch hunt to demonize anyone that quote unquote believes in a mythological deity in the sky. They're on this witch hunt to put people into a box that discuss the nature of good and evil into something that they can marginalize. So they can also prop up what they've been saying for years. Oh, no. Don't bring up spirituality, Alex Ansary. Don't bring up those mystical elements of things that have been in human history and ancestry for thousands of years. Let's just make this about politics, about the left and the right. Let's just call those people that we call extremists crazy. Let's not actually look at their possession as people demonize whole groups of people together and just sing the song as they march to hell. That's not just politics. That's not just extremism. That's demonic what's happening right now on a global level as these different groups get demonized, as they literally manufacture turbulence, whether it be in Europe or other places. We are literally witnessing a technological black mass in real time with outlets like InfoWars and what those networks represent. We're living now in the day and the age where the rants of the devil will be televised worldwide. Adolf Hitler were just simply an appetizer. And so it's through this suffering that we're going through as we wake up to the real world that we're in, that we can find the light. A blog that I wrote in 2009. It's through the pain that we can find the way home. It's through waking up to the real reality that we're in, right? A lot of people think that spirituality is moving to a certain part of Colorado or Oregon and with your significant other and going, oh, Alex Ansary, oh, I think what you're saying is weird. I love my life. Me and my husband and our home are doing great in Salida. What's up with you? And it's like there are people that are literally still acting like we're in the 11th century in some old European village. Where someone's like mocking the Gnostic or mocking the guy that is doing his own thing, who's sharing ideas that are different than the rest. There are certain people that won't ever be able to understand you when you're speaking your spiritual truth because it's not in the nature of the masses. And the sooner we understand that, the sooner that we can be free from the suffering that comes from our ideas being rejected. Okay. If you're expecting a world to be receiving your spiritual understandings with wide open arms, you're going to be waiting a long time. I've been waiting a long time. Viewers come, viewers go. Only a few remain over the years because a lot of people they lean towards these hierarchical systems. They start hearing me talk about some of these Gnostic ideas and going beyond the illusions of separation. They may be naturally repelled by me. They may not want to thumb up a video like this that's encouraging people to go beyond the illusions of separation. It may not be in them biologically for them to see value in this message being catapulted live through YouTube. They may not have that in them to appreciate that spark of consciousness that I'm trying to bring to the conversation. And that's okay. It's important for us to understand that we're on a prison planet. Some souls just got out of hell and they don't have yet compassion for other souls. They just got here. They're like, oh my God, I'm in a human form. It's time to get a bunch of resources, eat, and fornicate, make a lot of kids. They're not yet at a level of, what can I do to make the world a better place? How do we go beyond just praying for ourselves so our own mountain doesn't burn down? And how do we like stop destroying nature, or like calling for people to be removed off the face of the earth forever? And as long as you have people in certain communities in America that are cursing people overseas or encouraging widespread genocides, we are in danger as a nation. Women are in danger as citizens of the United States. I have one of my most watched videos now getting an uprising in views because the relevancy. Good men are leaving mainstream society. Future repercussions for women's safety. As those of us have been forgotten, right, by the average woman of today's day and age, we flee the major cities in order to save ourselves, in order to not become like the other men that are doing whatever is required for the average dollar. And we aren't yet in a physical world incarnated in, rather, to where the goodness is appreciated by the masses. The masses aren't rooting for the good guys. It's villains. So somehow or another, as souls, if you have one, I have a soul that for whatever reason has this body and has this name. We're in a matrix type of reality where there is potential for us to do some really great things, but we were basically thrown into a prison sort of reality where people are running around emotionally shaking each other. And now with YouTube, which has the ability to do so many great things, instead people use it as a tool. Instead of using a hammer to build a house, some people are straight up trying to assault people in the skull with their words, with their harm, with their obsessive stalking energy. And it gets heavy, especially if you're sensitive like me and you can feel the constant thoughts. Does it feel positive? Are they wanting to help? Or is it more of an obsessive, like they're having an argument with the monitor as they watch my YouTube streams? Does it feel friendly, or does it feel caustic? So it changes. I can tell you it changes. But ultimately, this is not a world that's trying to help those members of the society that are trying to remind people who they are, to go beyond the limited understandings. And so when we can accept that, perhaps that's the point where we look closer to God, right? As they say, look to God. Look to God, not to men, not to women. Let us impress the creator of all that is. Let us seek to be an asset to the creator. And every time I bring up these Gnostic ideas, every now and again, it'll come up like Agent Smith in the Matrix in elements of the comment section over time. You can't say that. That's not true. We're not here to be assets to the creator. The creator doesn't need us to be its assets. And it'll constantly get that archonic Old Testament worldview. People are very critical of Islam while not also acknowledging like the BDSM bondage of the old European age, old Christianity, punishment toward the Gnostics. Oh yeah, they did horrible things, the Gnostic men and women back in the day. So Europe has its own dark history. It's not just what people are being told today, that there's just this beautiful history. I mean, there's actually a reason why people actually came to the United States to begin with. There's actually a war at one time, as we see the audience members drop down just a little bit. And see, I could have chosen to go down a different path in life, to promote racial supremacy or religious supremacy, or to get behind an Archon blueprint. And anyone that promotes top-down male domination, hierarchy, things of that nature, or using the U.S. flag as a religious symbol of protection, which is laughable. Someone could respect the flag, but just waving the flag doesn't mean that we're more preferred than by God, like that's some sort of a religious symbol. But we've now entered the American cult to where the American flag is actually a sigil of spiritual protection. That's blasphemy, if there is such a thing. That's blasphemy. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm not going to burn the flag. It's another to think that the flag itself, right, is somehow tied to divine protection of a people or a geography. That's where people can actually go down dark directions, like Heaven's Cult. That is comparable to a Heaven's Gate type of a cult. If people think that there's a demiurge, archon, god type character that they need to sacrifice their children to in order for the country to be safe, then I would say that we're right now living through a modern day Babylonian sacrifice. It's televised before the masses and it's draped with the American flag. And so it's good to refrain from fighting with people in the streets over the American flag because there's so much alien energy around the fight over the sigil and the blood sacrifice that it represents. So let me read now, living out the principle of oneself. In World War I volunteered with the U.S. Marines, and although at that time I was a young student of metaphysics, I learned it was possible to protect myself from the powers of this world by hiding myself in the Christ, where no evil power can come near me. And I prayed that way for weeks until one day I was struck by how horrible God must be if, by reciting abracadabra, I could be protected while all the persons who did not know about it would go out and get killed. There I would be with my gun, killing right and left, and I could not be touched. But the four fellows who did not know about this wonderful prayer could die. I could not believe there was such a God, and I realized there was something wrong with that form of prayer. Not knowing any other, I decided not to pray again until I had learned to pray correctly. Days went by, and I refused to engage in any such protective prayer until one day, by an apparent accident, I knocked my Bible to the floor. It fell open to this passage, "Neither pray for I these alone." The weight fell off my shoulder, and I said, "Thank you, Father. Never again will I pray for me and mine alone." By now, my prayer is the grace of God encompass mankind, but the grace of God touch every living soul to the spiritual life. A miracle took place as far as I was concerned. I was transferred from one place to another, from one duty to another, and never once during the war was I sent anywhere near where I could shoot anybody or be shot at. How many people pray to not even be in the conflict zone to where they even have to be in a situation? So that's pretty profound when you actually think about it. The idea of going beyond just the selfish prayer, but praying for all of mankind. Do you think there's prayer for all of mankind in the mainstream churches today that are directing the prayer simply for the soldiers that have gone to overseas nations to invade and to do the most unspeakable acts? And now, of course, we're not getting as much reporting as we used to about the war crimes taking place in multiple nations. So the question is, what God are they praying to? And if they feel that that deity is protecting their towns, if they think that certain deities are protecting their towns as they go out and they commit the ultimate sacrifices, what does that mean for the future of America? What does that mean for the future safety of America's daughters? This is modern Gnostic thought. To what God do they invite into their communities to give them protection? To what mafia-like deities are they praying? Let us take a moment before I go back to reading. Let us pray. Let us pray for those misleaders in my county, in your county, right? That are leading their church followers astray, that are giving their soul essence and energy to the military industrial complex. Let us pray for those that are leading their flock to soulless directions. Let us pray that they may be awakened. And see, as I speak, multiple people dropping off the stream. Multiple people dropping off the stream because they can't hear this. They can't even argue with this. They have to, if something has courted them, they just accidentally subscribe to my channel. They have to hit the back button and leave this channel now. They won't be allowed by that which is parasiting on them if they're courted to these Old Testament energies to even hear this truth. They will feel compelled to attack it. And the level of darkness that some people are willing to go to stop the truth is almost unspeakable. We just dropped down 5 listeners, you see. But I don't care. The difference between me and just about every other YouTube out there that's doing these live streams for your popularity is that they're saying the things that they think the audience wants to hear. There are very few people out there doing a live stream at this moment in time speaking about these things anywhere on YouTube, period. I'm not doing this for popularity. I'm trying to help those few people that are actually trying to free themselves from the system. I have no interest in entertaining you. Of course, I want to know what it's like to have friends. Friends that are, more than audience members, people that I may visit once in a while. Of course, I'm a human being. Of course, I want to hear from family members once in a while. Go, Alex, well, you may not be into Orthodox, Archon-controlled religions, but we like the fact you got some spirit, and I don't get that. What happens is when you walk this path, it's a path of isolation. It's a path that comes with judgment. Just like Jessica earlier, leaving. I'm having a great time with my husband. We've never experienced hard times. We love our home in Colorado. You're strange. And so the difficult thing in being a public figure is people will say, oh, I was attracted to something positive you did, but I'm going to turn around and throw you under the bus because you express, right, what it feels to be going through certain types of suffering. Even more so, you want to find a common solution to the suffering with others without going down particular religious, materialistic, or New Age boxes. You see, because the New Age box is everything is wonderful, everything is fine. Hey, wow, we're beautiful, happy, shiny people holding hands. We have materialism. We have things. We are the people we've been waiting for. And see, being that I moved away from a town like Portland, Oregon, we have a lot of modern witches basically that are dabbling with law of attraction ideas, but aren't generally trying to make the world a better place, but in fact are scorning people like myself, trying to make the world a better place. It's how people use that energy. And if someone, and I'll go back to reading just a bit, if someone learns elements of the law of attraction and they're just simply interested in being selfish, I've read from others that could leave someone vulnerable to something like a physical ailment. I want to start mentioning names of diseases. Someone could be vulnerable to a particular ailment if they use the law of attraction simply for selfish reasons. So as more older women, right, face certain news of certain potential risks to their health, the question is if they're unmindfully using the law of attraction, or if any man or woman out there is overly absorbed in the energy of greed, at one point, what they may have experienced to be great health and great charisma and great strength can ultimately be something that is an illness. Their body that used to be something of great pleasure could be something that brings them great pain. And as a consequence of the fact that I say these things in my videos, I have alienated many people from my life that live those greedy, materialistic ways of life. There are many people in the alternative media that live that lifestyle, that say that they're against the global conspiracy. There are many people that say that they're Christians that drive the Maserati. There are many people that say these things because they know how to manipulate people, and it's almost as if they're soulless. It's almost as if they don't believe that there are negative repercussions for their actions. So either they do believe in karma or they don't believe in karma. Regardless, I try to keep off those Billy Graham style false messengers out of my field of influence, because there are many people in the alternative media that have been able to observe people over the years on the fringe element of the religious stand, and they have actively sought to take notes from them. How do they captivate audiences? How do they build their church sermons and stages and platforms to look a certain way? So there's that idea that we're it's that idea of community, and people are drawn to that. People are drawn to the sense of community. But if people are coming together, putting their law of attraction together, right, so that those people are people that may be occupying immorally overseas lands, so that they have the energy, well, then they're not pointing their consciousness in the direction of the true light. And that's where I'm hoping that this makes sense for those of you. There's a deeper reason why many people that are truly seeking to know the creator of all that is, where they do not seek in large gatherings in large churches, whether it be mosques, whether it be certain temples, whether it be certain Orthodox Christian religions, including the Catholic Church, whether it be Judaism. We see a similar pattern with the old traditional Abrahamic religions. Okay, so we're going to start reading out of the Gnostic book just a little bit. I'm also going to read a little bit from Practical Self-Defense by Robert Bruce. So we'll actually conclude with elements of that. Let's jump into this section here. And so the chapter is Gnosis, self-knowledge as knowledge of God. And again, this is the thing that repels the Orthodox Christians. They have been brainwashed to literally attack, as if they are serving God, people that say the truth is within, right? The claim of being a heretic. Notice how our world hasn't changed very much during the period of the persecution of Christ. How that the spirit of those that actually crucified Christ is alive today in those that actually say that they believe in the teachings of Christ, especially when they use Christianity to dovetail a modern day crusade and genocide of a group of people overseas. Again, overseas in a lot of these countries, even if people know that 9/11 was a stage managed event, yeah, it was used though to topple a lot of these regions. Already though, the Saudis and others have been corrupting the Middle East. But the reason why a lot of these groups have been pushed into these nation states, it's not so different from what's happened to those of us in the West. We have a period of societies not being so easily governed by just a few people, and religions and the spread of religions have the ability to do that. So there's a period of pre-Islamic Middle Eastern history that a lot of people are just not interested in. That's something that also includes things like Zoroastrianism and other forms of mysticism. And so there's an element of human history that humans have not shown yet an active interest in. And there is a beautiful world out there. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't interested in it. But this theme of being persecuted, whether someone is in ancient Babylon or the modern Babylon of America in 2018, this stuff is still considered to be heretic material. So the Gospel of John has the famous quote, Jesus said to him, I am the way, I am the Father, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but me. The Gospel of John, which contains this saying, is a remarkable book that many Gnostic Christians claim for themselves and use as a primary source for Gnostic teaching. Yet the emerging church, despite some Orthodox opposition, included John within the New Testament. What makes John acceptably Orthodox? Why did the church accept John while rejecting the Gospel of Thomas or the Dialogue of the Savior? In considering this question, remember that anyone who drives through the United States is likely to see billboards proclaiming this saying from John, billboards all throughout the country. Their purpose is clear. By indicating that one finds God only through Jesus, the saying in its contemporary context implies that one finds Jesus only through the church, that one can find Jesus only through the church. Now that's the fine print as they built up their institutions and their prayer houses. And of course, all that misdirected prayer energy for these military conquests early on in Western history. In a similar tone, in the first centuries of this era, Christians concerned to strengthen the institutional church could find support in John. And then, of course, there's things like Romans 13 in particular, interpretations of that. Give Caesar what is Caesar's, things of that nature. Looking at the comment section really briefly. Putting our law of attraction together is a good insight. In Coast to Coast, George Norrie's talked about being scared of the law of attraction. Like, why be scared of it? If there are certain experiments where people can affect the weather, as Art Bell said that he successfully was engaged in, and it scared the heck out of him, then why can't we make that a positive to diffuse a certain situation on the earth? Have they even tried to use Clear Channel, right, to actually do something really, really amazing? And I would argue that we haven't really seen that. So we can use it, right, for something far more powerful. But we are taught, even today, right, that these things are of the devil, to put our thoughts together. Really? Well, when they're putting their thoughts together and they're praying for soldiers and they're saying that that's of the divine, then who are they talking to? Then how much of that information can we trust if that's their interpretation? But we cannot then, because of how people, it's like, God save me from your followers, Jesus save me from your followers. We cannot let those that come in the name of Jesus convince us that his teachings don't exist or that there is no God. People have to come to a sense of understanding that the foundational mainstream Orthodox religions are very institution or very system of itself is based around this devouring of energy. Don't know how else to say it right now. We're in a physical world, a fallen world, where these massive deceptions are going on, where people are literally giving tribute and sacrifice to false deities without even acknowledging that it's taking place. And we have more evidence now than ever, especially since 9/11, that we're living in a fallen world. That a lot of these deities that people are asking their flock to pray to and give their energy to may not be actually serving mankind. And so we still are tirelessly trying to help people to see this. And if people in the AKA, the left, want to say that we're basically discrediting anything progressive and we're weirdos, then how are we rising above the dark ages? How are those leftists, how are those supposed mainline Democrats that say they're anti-war being really open to the ideas from other cultures or other lands? If they're saying my way is right, you can't talk about these things. People that talk about invisible deities in the sky have no value whatsoever. And being that I'm from Portland, I can tell you that's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they believe. You know, programs like the Tom Hartman Show and other things that are out there, Kyle from Secular Talk, they have these massive platforms where they say they are the resistance, they resist war, they result those things, yet they have the spirit of the conquistador within them as they disrespect those that seek to know Christ, that seek to know spiritually what is really going on. And they sit there and they highlight right-wing extremist religious leaders while laughing wholesale at those that believe in the idea of God. You see how this works? The devil has his agents in place in so-called houses of worship all across this planet in order to, in reality, turn some people away from the true idea of God. Now, I should keep reading here. The Pope said this exactly, that we should not have a personal relationship with Christ, that we must use the church. So notice when people emerge in comment sections saying the same thing as the Pope while saying they're anti-New World Order, anti-globalism. Pay very close attention to those that come in the name of these Old Testament deities cursing us for having our free thought. What motivates these individuals? And why do they keep claiming they're with us and they're anti the global system? David Smith says, respect comes naturally the more empathy you have in general. Chase Browning says, I quit Facebook. And Facebook can be one thing that can inhibit our ability to have empathy for others. Why? Because a lot of things to be pissed off about on Facebook. So we should try to keep our anger in check. So let me just read something new here. But some Gnostic Christians went so far as to claim that humanity created God, and so from its own inner potential discovered for itself the revelation of truth. This conviction may underline the ironic comment in the Gospel of Philip. God created humanity, but now human beings created God. That is the way it is in the world. Human beings make gods and worship their creation. It'd be appropriate for the gods to worship human beings. So that's just something from the Gospel of Philip that's referenced here. The Gnostic Valentinus taught that humanity itself manifests the divine life and divine revelation. The church, he says, consists of that portion of humanity that recognizes and celebrates its divine origin. Let me just continue looking for things to share here. I'm also going to maybe go back to another chapter to bring up a couple other points. Many Gnostics, on the contrary, insisted that ignorance, not sin, is what involves a person in suffering. The Gnostic movement shared certain affinities with contemporary methods of exploring the self through psychotherapeutic techniques. Both Gnosticism and psychotherapy value, above all, knowledge, gnosis, the self-knowledge, which is insight. They agree that lacking this, a person experiences the sense of being driven by impulses he does not understand. Valentinus expressed this as a myth. He tells how the world originated when wisdom, the mother of all beings, the mother, the feminine, brought it forth out of her own suffering. The four elements that Greek philosophers say constituted the world, earth, air, fire, and water, are concrete forms of her expressions, Okay. So there's this little theme of consciousness versus unconsciousness. Most people live then in oblivion, or in contemporary terms, unconsciousness, or they could be called in our contemporary terms zombies. Remaining unaware of their own selves, they have no root. The gospel of truth describes such existence as a nightmare. Those who live in it experience terror and confusion and instability and doubt and division, being caught in many illusions. So I'm actually going to read something from the Gnostic text here. Right, I've been talking a lot. Now I'm getting more into some of the things that they said, as well as Elaine's interpretation. Right, there's this book I bought for $1 somewhere at a thrift store. It had so much value. There's also another book over here that I haven't gotten into. It's called The Lost Years of Jesus. Right, so I don't know how many of you are familiar with that particular understanding or belief that Jesus had other itineraries on his route, including Afghanistan, including India. Wow, really offensive, probably for some people here. Well, Jesus wasn't gone all that. Jesus was a good old boy. But apparently there is this other story of the teachings of Jesus and his travels. So this is a passage from the Nag Hammadi. According to the passage, scholars call the nightmare parable. They lived as if they were sunk in sleep and found themselves in disturbing dreams. Sounds like psychic attack. Either there is a place to which they are fleeing, or without strength they come from having chased after others, or they are involved in striking blows, think the Portland riot, or they are receiving blows themselves, or they have fallen from high places, or they have taken off into the air, though they do not even have wings. Again, sometimes, oh, that sounds like a person thinking that they have wings and jumping off a building. Again, sometimes it is as if people were murdering them, though there was no one even pursuing them. Or they themselves are killing their neighbors, for they have been stained with their blood. When those who are going through all these things wake up, they see nothing. They who were in the midst of these disturbances, for they are nothing. Such is the way of those who have cast ignorance aside as sleep, leaving its works behind like a dream in the night. This is the way everyone has acted, as though asleep at the time when he was ignorant. And this is the way he has come to knowledge, as if he had awakened. Now, when I think about describing our reality, part of me feels like I'm talking to the future. Like it's important that the future generations understand the direction that America was on before it happened, the big event, the aftermath. There's like this whole history of our continent, of our nation, and things that are happening recently. And it's important for people to be accurate documentarians to share the real truth, the gnosis, the knowledge of just what happened here in the modern day America before it happens. We can talk about things from a spiritual Gnostic perspective. We could talk about moral evil, not evil from the traditional Orthodox perspective, but what was going on and on a moral level within the country of the United States before XYZ happened. Now, without looking at things through the literal Orthodox view, but looking at how we treat each other, how we look at nature, the suppression of the feminine, even within ourselves, even women that will suppress the feminine in other women in this very masculine, patriarchic worldview system, where both the Democrat and Republican systems are male-dominated, two wings of the military-industrial complex. That means that all that female support in the Republican Party and all that female support, right, in the Democratic Party is feeding that male-dominated archonic system, but it's not really about male domination. It's about control. People think that it's about men running the world, and I'll get back to reading something new, but really men end up in a world where the woman's removed from the situation, from the reality. The men suffer, and the men in this world are suffering because of the removal from some of the feminine energy and how it's almost beat out of them by some of their mothers and their fathers. That's right, by even some of their mothers. If a boy cries or expresses an understanding or expresses a spiritual view, and then his mother is going to berate him for that, that doesn't matter if she's female. That's still going to be part of this patriarchal, no, don't access your inner gnosis, your inner feminine. Follow these books and understandings that we've given you. Bye-bye to those people that just left the stream. You see, and I am on a mission to not build up 100 Y viewers, but to actually, if you will, shed those waitful viewers that come with this orthodox left-right, that aren't looking for the spirit. Those are the only ones that could be seen as allies of me in the future. The ones that are generally, goodbye, another one. Those are only the ones that could be seen as people with heart in the end. The people that in these days that express themselves spiritually, no matter how many years we may have been put down by our family, by our mother, by our father, by people that we've dated. Why? Because we believed what we believed. Right? But I do know, right? There's a lot of you out there that do support this, that do support this understanding. But when women and men hear about like the unconsciousness, they want to tune out. They don't want to hear that we have missed the mark big time. We really do it. Goodbye. One more. Goodbye. We really have missed the mark. And there's so much more we could do to actually show the world what actual compassion looks like. That's why I mirrored that video from that other individual that's on YouTube. You know, a lot of people are understanding that there's a real lack of compassion. Okay, it is a little bit hot here. Thank you for tuning in today. I want to continue on with this. I want to thank you guys for being here, taking a look at the comment section. David Smith was actually asking a question in the private forum over at outsidethebox.vhx.tv, which I don't have an answer to. I don't even have an opinion on it, what deja vu might mean. But there is that movie in The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, where the cat crosses twice. And they were saying that there was a glitch in the Matrix. So the only thing I can do is quote the Matrix. But I have those moments, just to pause on this, to where it does seem like there are glitches in the Matrix, to where there are periods and synchronicities occurring. Here's an example of a synchronicity. You're listening to something on the radio and you're reading something from a book, and the person on the radio is saying the same word that you're reading at that moment in the book. Now, how many of you may experience that 5 times in a single day? And what are the odds of that? At the very moment that you're coming across a word in a book, that you actually hear it on the radio, or that you could be talking about a series of numbers and all of a sudden you're on a road trip and then you're seeing those series of numbers manifest on the road trip. I remember having this experience with a friend. He thought it was weird. Mike Blue Hair thought it was really weird that I was discussing the idea of synchronicity and numbers. We were seeing like 311 and 911 and different things like that on license plates when we were on a mini road trip in 2009 to see David Icke speak in somewhere at the Washington, Vancouver, BC border. So I look at things like that as signs. And when it comes to elements of law of attraction, some of the things that we're focusing on, I think that could relate to that. The truth will always have the best answers, and it'll reveal itself if you're open to it. Logic and science. I think deja vu was something my higher self was trying to influence me against my current mindset. So going here, my whole thing, I'm just trying to figure out, are we going to live in a world where they're going to start showing more compassion to the people that they're removing off the planet? That's my main philosophical question that I'm seeking. Are we going to see at some point within this biological existence widespread compassion and acknowledgement that there is this desecration of life taking place under the guise of serving God and protecting the nation while wrapping itself in a flag? How does this endanger those of us that are living here now? This is the modern Gnostic thought. All right. Self-ignorance is also a form of self-destruction. According to the dialogue of the Savior, whoever does not understand the elements of the universe and of himself is bound for annihilation. So I'm going to give you a fresh quote here from the Nag Hammadi. If one does not understand how the fire came to be, he will be burnt in it because he does not know his root. If one does not first understand the water, he does not know anything. If one does not understand how the wind that blows came to be, he will run with it. If one does not understand how the body that he wears came to be, he will perish with it. Whoever does not understand how he came will not understand how he will go. How or where is one to seek self-knowledge? Many Gnostics share with psychotherapy a second major premises. Both agree against Orthodox Christianity that the psyche bears within itself the potential for liberation or destruction. Few psychiatrists would disagree with the saying attributed to Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas. And again, this is attributed to Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas. Quote, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And again, we are constantly in our lifetimes coming across people telling us that we don't have the answers within. In fact, in New Age circles, you'll come across people that are supposedly saying that they're channeling other entities before you come across people that say that you have the knowledge within yourself. You will first come across people that will be trying to give you a reading for several $100s before you come across people in the modern New Age movement that will be trying to show you how to access that knowledge from within or protect yourself from within. So just be aware of that. The things that I'm discussing here relating to that truth within, that power within. Again, the tagline that I started before I even knew what the word Gnostic meant, I was saying the path, the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within. I didn't even know what the word Gnostic meant when I created that. It's just like that sense, like this is in my blood, or this is in my native ancestry, or this is native to my soul. The path to the ultimate truth lies within. And throughout time, there are people that live their whole lifestyles based around telling people that. And the whole history of humanity is one big story of oppression of those people from the ancient world until today. The thing is, where there's a little bit of hope is that a live stream like this can occur. I don't think that in the information itself, it's not a matter of the secrets getting out in the world all of a sudden becoming awakened. The information's always been there. It's that we're competing with the world of noise. So there can be all this truth. But just think about like truth on the internet. Like there's truth on the internet. They can't censor all the truth. They create noise. They create disturbance. They create sensations. Oh, this is the alternative media. These are the people you want to listen to. But it's more of the archonic inversion. It's more lies. So people inherently in their heart, they're looking for truth. They're looking for knowledge. They're looking for gnosis. What they have to do is they have to sift through all the counterfeit gnosis and counterfeit data, counterfeit deities to get to the truth. They can't skip around trying to find it within or look for answers within. Any attempts to just simply externalize something or create a religion where someone worships and gives their energy to some sort of a sigil or a symbol, those things to me are suspect by nature. Just the actual engineering of the law of attraction. Just give it over here to this top of the pyramid, sacrifice enough resources and children for these wars that God's allegedly protecting you from, and everything will be okay. So there's so many different ways in which they took traditional spiritual stuff and they created all these barbaric, tyrannical world order systems. And feel free to leave a comment if you like, right? Feel free to contribute via super chat. Special thanks to those of you in the past videos that have. But thank you for watching this. But remember that if you want to see this channel grow and more videos like this, let me know. Be vocal. Comment sections are good. I don't spend a lot of time in comment sections, but I do read the comments. I feel like when two or more gather to talk about spiritual things, you got to remain strong. There's going to be forces that try to divide us and change the conversations. Hello, MGTOW, vegan. You know, there could be a people meditating at the park and there could be a disturbance. I do remember meditating under the sun in Portland and someone else that was homeless was sneering at me as if, who do you think you are connecting with the sun? And it was like this glare as he was like glaring directly into my energy body. For a number of different reasons, I and alcoholics have never blended. You know, I drink socially once in a while, but like, you know, drinking to falling down, there's something about, and this goes without saying, and then we'll get back to the book. Trying to remember exactly where I was going with that because I'm looking at the comment section. Somebody's angry that we're not making it about proving that God exists. And I'm telling you, man, there's a channel called Secular Talk, and creating memes around that can make you a multimillionaire, right? A lot of people that are like, but you have to learn to differentiate between a philosopher talking about the nature of reality and people that are promoting monotheistic deities, Old Testament religions. Now, people want to take their beef with monotheistic religions and then go after people that are outside of those monotheistic religions. And it's like there are actual people out there that are encouraging people to maim and destroy in the name of deities. Those are the ones that you should be more concerned with, putting on a hot seat, going out to a sermon somewhere and saying, well, how can you prove your deity needs blood? You see? So the question, right, for this audience member, you watch Secular Talks, you're in that mindset. So at what point would you understand or think that maybe this channel is not for you? Now I can understand the idea of engagement. Maybe I can change someone's like whole channel topic. But if you actually go back, right, into the history of all this stuff, now we're getting into Middle Eastern politics in the comment section. The thing is, the topic regarding all of this in the whole video is that there are parallel understandings of how the universe works other than monotheistic understandings of God. And monotheistic understandings of God are a different description of how it could actually be. And so there are actual people promoting actual religions and things of that nature. And those are the ones you want to cross-examine. If the theme of this channel is for you to look for the knowledge within yourself, then why distract to an argument over God existing if that isn't like the core theme of the channel? So no, you haven't been ignored. Now you've been addressed, right? Now, if you found the channel and maybe you thought it was like a monotheistic discussion about like a traditional Old Testament way of viewing God, and you didn't know, right, for example, that we were discussing things from more of the universe and that there's a lot of things on this channel that do relate to, for example, this has to do with how many, right, traditional monotheistic religions have suppressed knowledge about the sun or the idea of the sun as a spiritual being. Now, switching the topic here to the sun, all I'm getting for the most part with regards to cross-examination with regards to the sun, now get this, is people saying wholesale like they know, right? Like I'm supposed to like accept this like it's gnosis, that the sun doesn't exist, that the earth is flat. So within the same logic, right, of how can you prove that God exists, the same thing's being done now. Even as far as people saying that if you believe that there's a sun, that you're a globalist, or if you don't believe that the earth is flat, that you're a globalist. So it's good to ask questions like, why do you believe what you believe, things of that nature. But you have to be able to differentiate between monotheism, right, and traditional religions versus just an understanding of energy, a oneness principle, or the idea of intelligence within the universe, or that intelligence being within us. Because we see more, you probably already heard this from someone else, we see more out there than what the brain is picking up on. We're picking up on more of what our brain is able to decipher. So these concepts that you're asking, which are good questions, like how do we know there even is a God? How do we know even things? But those are the questions to start with. The questions go deeper, right? The questions to eventually end up with is, what are we doing here? What is reality? Who am I? Things of that nature. So I'll take a look here and see if that helped. Okay, yeah. So definitely. There's going to be people that find themselves to my channel, right, that absolutely do not like the conversation of spirituality. So the general theme is Take the information that applies to you and leave the rest. You're going to find all kinds of people that are in the alternative media that believe, do as thou wilt, never ending wars, put out clickbait and propaganda, do the AMTV thing, do the Next News Network thing, do the InfoWars thing, act like there is no consequence to whipping people up into a frenzy. Totally, man, totally. And because I've been covering stuff for a number of years, obviously there's going to be people that love alternative media. They're going to find themselves to this channel. What we're missing out of people that love alternative thought is people that believe in compassion. What we're missing, like as a movement, are people that enjoy hearing people's spiritual understandings of the universe. That's what we're missing. A lot of people are going back into these old ways of thinking, either Old Testament or there is no spirit, there is no this. Let's make fun of people. Let's act like Kyle from Secular Talk. Let's look down on the whole history of the world. Let's act like we have something to brag about, like Kyle has something to brag about. And there's really no substance with these individuals. They don't really care wholeheartedly with their heart. They're just really not trying to be marginalized as destructive humans like others. So they can find the left and kind of use the left for security, like a security blanket. Like, we're not Donald Trump supporters. We're not crazy conservatives. We're like rational progressives and stuff. Right. And so there's so much more to all of this. Can going off grid help people get away from sexual immorality? I think that going off the grid, oh, geez, no. I mean, that's an immediate answer. No. There are people off the grid. In Costa Rica County, for example, one guy was busted with a slave. I think that living in an urban environment or an off-grid environment does not dictate any of that. If someone is a deviant, what it can help with, if you want to get away, we're going to shift the topics now because I can go on and on for hours on the same topic and just not stop. I'm going to set this book down and again, recommend people look at it. Okay. And we're going to keep this on the theme of rising above our lower nature. How can I prove there's a lower nature? How can I prove there's a higher nature? I guess you prove that to yourself. So for those that understand there's a lower nature and a higher nature that don't need any convincing, let's focus on that. Well, how can there be such a thing as sexual morality when everything is relative? Well, I think that doing something without someone's consent is not moral. I think that it is our physical nature to be in constant procreative mode, but our physical nature, and this is Gnostic thought, is not the real body. The physical body is not the real spiritual body. Okay? The world as we live in, feel like Morpheus talking to Neo, right? But so many different ways. And there's a video I talked about how archons try to control men through their lust. It's something that a lot of people don't understand. Some people may understand it if it's being called a demon, but how spiritual parasites control men through their lust. And a lot of this is popularized on the internet and in mainstream society. A lot of mainstream urban cities, right? We're constantly being tempted by stuff that's built into the business and industries. It's not just pornography and X-rated bookstores. It's based into the politics of who has a job at the restaurant and who doesn't. So everywhere we look in the modern urban reality, the young girl with the perky breasts is used as a sigil to tool. She's a tool to bring more abundance. Just like flowers that aren't wilted, but young flowers, right? It's physical. They're taking the young, physical, hot bodies, the females, and they sell products with that. Now, it's done intentionally because it works. We have a wiring within us that if it sees boobies, especially men that are still on their lower side, again, there is no higher lower from the Kyle secular talk. There is just animalism, and we're just fighting the conservatives. There is a higher and a lower. Okay, and there are people that like to, say that they're outside that box, but there are a lot of men that have lost themselves because all they do is worship what they believe is the golden. And a lot of people, like, unfortunately, they go on these dark MGTOW trails. There's a spiritual side of MGTOW that isn't really represented, which is why that's a limited box and mindset. People need to rise above the uncontrolled desire for what they're not getting. It doesn't mean that desire is wrong and that we should beat ourselves up. None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. but this world is constantly selling us false messages about our value if we don't have a hot girl on the side of us. Women actually respond to the imagery of a man with women around him. There's stuff that's built into our psychology as humans that I think that we should rise above, but certain tribalistic mindsets. So look at that guy. That guy has the eyes on him. That guy has the energy. That guy might be going somewhere someday, right? So a lot of men may learn to like play that role, play that game, because they understand the physical wiring and chemistry of the woman. And on an A level, to describe it objectively, to not want to participate in it, man, this sounds like some monkey dance nonsense. Very animalistic, that it's just the image of what a man is, kind of like, like a sports coat or things of that nature. The image of this, or the image of success, or having the energy around him and being at one point, right? Remembering when there were a lot of women that wanted to date me when I was on cable access, I thought, isn't that weird that now, since I've gone on a more spiritual path and I'm far less angry about some of those things, and I actually own this land and I'm actually independent, right? But it's actually in the past when the women were around and wanted to know me. When I was a guy on cable TV, there was a sense of, especially looking to do, not my current friend Angel, but another friend named Angel that I really had a crush on. She created, like Eve Lorgan writes the Love Bite, the book, kind of like a Love Bite scenario where I would have a crush on her, or a certain amount of attention given to me, hugs, communication, being led on. And then I learned later on at the ripe old age of 29 that some women will lead a man's attention and energy towards them because it feels good. To some of you, this is like obvious, but there literally is like a rocket science level of this that some men don't understand. Saying this another way, some men may be duped into giving certain women their energy, their attention, even as simple as commenting back and forth, even emails, because of the way that energy feels. And I'm not saying these things are wrong. I'm saying some people use the internet to manipulate. Some people with marriages, with men already in their lives that should be filling that void. And as a man that speaks truth that their mates will never speak in a million years, I know what it's like to be contacted by a variety of women over time that are married. It's not that what they're doing is a sin. They're looking for knowledge, right? But the men that they have chosen ultimately are not spreading gnosis. They may be seeking gnosis, right? But the mates that they're picking with are not a part of the pro-gnosis movement, modern gnosis. Now, I say that to be objective, not in the angry sense. We're doing math, folks. We're just simply doing math. And so people are looking for truth and looking for knowledge, and that's okay. But a man also has to protect his energy. Okay. A lot of people out there sometimes, but I want to keep this on point with what was brought up in the comment section. Can you go off grid and reel this back in? Well, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. Going into isolation and stepping back from the pleasures of the flesh, right? These lustful realities. But we're going beyond that. Realities to where you can have your way right away at Burger King. Go out and have a meal of your own desires, or to do certain things. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. But when a person goes off the grid and they step away from the luxury, right? I miss the luxury, the elements of desire, of sensation. Being in Portland, or, what's wrong with enjoying, right, the experience of a naked dancing silhouette, right? And some of these cities are based on that. But when it becomes so far out of balance and people are worshiping each other and worshiping their bodies, then it's no longer spiritual. Then it's no longer beautiful. I even want to go deeper into it. Sexuality is not inherently evil. It's not described to be evil either in Gnostic belief systems, but there are ways in which Orthodox belief systems that we are in a world in which they dominate, these Orthodox religious and belief systems. When sexuality is made or believed to be a sin or certain things, and there's that type of pre-programming that which is natural to us is thus evil. Kind of like, this judgment against the feminine or women. They try to manipulate also the Gnostic texts, just like they did the Bible. And they try to put, women on a lesser note on the totem pole. And that can easily be seen, those attempts throughout history to oppress those belief systems that recognize the feminine. So sexuality is not inherently evil, but when you look at the modern world of sex clubs, right, of pornography, how people express themselves, the guilt that people have regarding sexuality and things of that nature, it's all into our matrix. So we are not even on a planet to where we really have experienced large scale like sexual liberation, like as the term's used and what it actually means. The society doesn't even know what that is. If anything, right, the society used to be more liberated in the 70s and 80s. We're actually going back into like they can have all this stuff regarding trannies and confused sexuality and call that liberation, but all of this needless and pointless manufactured gender war divide that gets in the way of romance, of real genuine love. Again, you can listen to Eve Lorgan and learn about the archons, spiritual parasites, in one of her books called The Love Mark or The Love Bite. She gets into these case studies where she's worked with groups of people that she thinks were involved in perhaps being abducted at one point. But the premise of her research deals with people that were constantly in their lifetimes in bad relationships. And these people may have been on the spiritual path, but they made the mistake of, for whatever reason, being with the wrong guy or the wrong girl. And finishing up this conversation, then going back to the comment section, our physical bodies, right, we could be targeted to be in the wrong relationship with the wrong person. There could be like a physical attraction between us and someone else because of base animal biology. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right spiritual mate or partner for us, just because we're attracted to her, or just because you as a female may be attracted to him. That may be your straight biology, and just being a slave to just straight biology and other things that go along with that, being attracted to certain types of personalities, things like that. The question is, are our thoughts our own? A guy could think, yeah, I really want a girl who's super submissive and is going to give me X, Y, and Z. And there is this phrase that says, be careful what you wish for. And they can end up ultimately with the person that's parasiting on them or is doing something detrimental to them. And I've seen so many times in which men and women, women and men make really bad decisions relationship-wise because their lower self is in the driver's seat. They're running on pure lust. They're running on pure programming. And even with the media will tell you who you should be with and who you should be afraid of being seen with in public, things of that nature. You can also see people's real-time behaviors on social media, right? Sometimes the media will be like, oh, if you're with this person, that's awesome. If you're with that person, that's bad, bad. And now there's like all these internet wars right now. It's basically a war on life. There's a war on life. There's a war on women's choice. And we're not talking about the abortion war. It's the type of babies that are actually being born into this world. There's a war on their choices. There is this counterfeit version that the end of the world is arriving through diversity of genetics. And anyone that speaks, right, of their own value, if I speak of my own value, being of diverse genetics, one side from one part of the world, one side from the other, right? The demiurge consciousness within this world wants to stamp our own sense of our life being worth anything into non-existence. This is the theme that we're facing. You could be someone that is white or Caucasian, and you are seeing negative propaganda about yourself, and it could be affecting you. And it could be affecting you throughout your whole life to where you think that it's another actual group on the planet doing it instead of the actual archons themselves. So I've dedicated my life to this cause. And it's a terrifying cause. Trying to wake people up beyond the illusions of separation that lead to primal racism and things of that nature. Dedicate your life against, right, that machinery. That is not difficult. That is not easy. Goodbye, three of you that just left. And this is what I'm getting at. This is not an easy path to walk. It is a nightmare for years, right? People like me have been praying to see more compassion on the world stage so we can actually start getting some things done. And ultimately, unless there is more compassion for human life, what would human beings do with unlimited breakthrough technology? They would create even bigger and more dangerous weapons to eradicate larger percentages of the human population. As people talk about a depopulation agenda. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Anna. I appreciate that. Anna, super chat, $50, historic, never happened before in a live chat. I am definitely putting some gas in the car today and going on a walk. I don't know where that popped up once or twice. That is really amazing. I see that right there. Thank you so much. God bless you. And I'm not trying to speak with anger towards anyone. These are historic, long live streams that have never been done, and I'm sharing from my heart. And you can hear a little bit of construction going on outside. But yes, I believe that a lot of people are tapped out of reality with the purpose of life. And we got to go beyond these illusions of separation. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of propaganda out there that's trying to convince people into thinking that they're absolute victims of certain groups. We've got to break free from that. The last thing the powers that be want the people doing is talking to each other and working out their perceived differences of opinion. Things like this enable that discussion in a positive way. Whereas before, people had to actually get their hands on a book or some other piece of information. I'm definitely winded after this this hour and a half afternoon. Let's see what else is in the yes, Anna. Thank you, Sarah. Anna. Okay. Now, I do have a newsletter and I haven't been using it a lot. One of the problem is getting people to sign up to the newsletter and then reminding you that you need to check that it's not spam, confirm the newsletter, but that information is at alexansary.tv. If I ever end up in a situation to where I'm able to get like a technical advisor to help improve certain things, ways of notifying some of you, I'd like to see YouTube continue to get better. It has gotten better in the sense that I can do a live stream like this without actually, I can do a live stream like this without actually using software. So the next step for YouTube to evolve is for YouTube to be notifying more of you when there's actually a live stream or when there's a new upload. One of the things that you can do for yourself as you're watching on YouTube is hit the little red bell next to the subscribe button, and you will be immediately notified of all new uploads. Whether there's something live that's going on or whether it's a new upload, you don't necessarily have to go to youtube.com/AlexAnsary. But there were a couple comments earlier from some people that were unsubscribed from my work. And this did happen to a lot of us on YouTube a few years ago. I don't like to bring it up a lot, right? Because I don't want to be in that state of victim mentality. I'd like to think that even if people are unsubscribed, that you'll remember to come back to this YouTube channel, and that as I grow and as we grow with knowledge and information and real life gnosis, maybe we can come up with, and you can maybe provide some advice if you find out a better way to notify everybody of the new uploads. Because one of the things that I'm realizing on Facebook, for anyone like David Smith, you're a Facebook friend. David, you can go ahead and tell the people in the comment section, do you see anybody engaging with my posts on Facebook? And I have 4,000 contacts. So if you actually go to Alex Ansary on Facebook, and you'll notice that I'm telling people about the live streams, you'll notice that I'm saying this and that, and you'll notice that no one's actually interacting on Facebook because no one's actually seeing anything that I'm posting in the actual feeds. And give me a thumbs up if we're still live and you're getting audio video. Because I'm getting a little breakup on my side. And so I'm not looking at that as, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's okay. This is like real-time suppression of truth and knowledge. Because I could see other people that are saying, oh, they're censoring all the white conservatives and people that are like pro-Trump, and there's all this censorship. If you're anti-Muslim, they're going to come after you. I see people calling for widespread genocide on Facebook. So I don't know where all this censorship is that people are talking about. I see people in real time saying that libtards should be, I'm not going to say it. There are people promoting political assassinations on social media. Right? Does that pretty much say in a nutshell? Are we on the same page? Got it. Cool. Okay. So when you're at that level, right, where they're just widespread calls for political assassinations and things of that nature, And then you'll notice that that rant, right? That anti-Gnostic thought, that anti-thought rant, 69 people will be like, yeah, love, heart, heart, heart. Let's just put them all in one place and just be done with it. 69 hearts. Okay. That's not a demographic of people being censored. Somehow or another, that type of hate speech is promoted by the very foundation of what is our system. Now they can flip the wheel and go, okay, now we're going to start censoring people to actually watch their numbers grow. Because when you censor people and you make big top national news about it, their movement grows. So we're seeing a lot of this, being suppressed. But here's another mainstream media special about the next Charlottesville style protest. So the mainstream media, if you've been paying attention, has been letting millions of Americans know where the most radical rallies are taking place so they could join them or go fight them. Whether they're going to join to fight them or they're going to join to be a part of those extremist protests or things relating to Charlottesville, the mainstream media is there to make sure that you know the rally's taking place, whether you're foe or friend of the people at the rally. Okay. Never get notifications from channels with topics or content like yours, Alex. So yeah, I'm just bringing this up a little bit more than normal. If you want to bring it up in a future chat, if there is, it's like, for example, someone by the name of Goldthread, shout out to Goldthread, sent me some emails recommending that I set up a GoFundMe. Go get funding. They take less of a cut. I haven't signed it up. Excuse me. But that was a good recommendation for a website where they take less of a cut. So recommendations like that help. At some point in the year 2018, there should be an easier way for my audience to sign up for like a newsletter that's actually going to reach your email and not be shoved into spam. I have a Dream host server, I guess, that all my websites are hosted on. And when I send out a newsletter to your email, again, the rules of the emails are you need to interact with it or engage in it, click on it, open it, watch the video on the email for your email to go, okay, it's not spam. It's just how it is. I could subscribe to someone's popular newsletter, and there could be thousands of people in that newsletter, and I'm still seeing that newsletter in the spam box even after I said it's not spam. So we've gotten to this point to where you can watch me on live stream and it's not breaking up. The next step is to somehow get some sort of a communication technological backbone to where you know when there's a new upload, to where this type of complaining about suppression of your notifications becomes no longer an issue when we start using a different way for you to get notified. So you're going to hear me bring this up over and over and over again, that we need to evolve beyond their attempts to censor our gnosis. Our gnosis and our knowledge with this technology has to increase the point where, and I'm working on it. Like I said, my friend helped me build the newsletter, but we need to do more to make sure that you're getting the newsletter. Anna, again, thank you so very much for the super chat. I'm going to make myself some tea and enjoy the sunshine. Feel free to leave some comments down below, some suggestions for specific topics. We went really long here, but my goal is to bring you more content like this on a regular basis. Even if YouTube demonetizes my videos, the support that's now coming in is a positive sign, and it's clear that you're more interested in content like this than political. But as we develop more of an interest in some of these spiritual ideas, let's get a little bit more specific with certain things, go deeper down the rabbit hole. And as we do, I think as a rule of thumb, we want to stick with speaking our own truth and steer away from smearing other people. I think that I've been very vocal about certain things, and I've tried to bring up certain people in the past to say that, hey, there are certain people that I think are co-opting some of these ideas, but I'm not trying to start a war with them or disrespect them. There's certain people in which I respect some things in which they've contributed, but ultimately in the end, I'm a man on his own spiritual path who's gone his own way. And so when it comes to the types of people that I listen to and the types of the people that I watch, I'm very conservative, so to speak. And I don't mean that politically. I'll watch channels like Reclaim the Matrix. I'll add him to my YouTube channel. So you can go to youtube.com/Alex Answering and maybe watch some other videos from some other people, because it's good to get like a real life recommendation or a pick from an actual human being. We can't let YouTube's artificial intelligence overly dictate to us what we watch. Yes, YouTube can help some of you find my work, and YouTube has helped me find other people's work. But often what I'll do is I'll go to the search bar and I'll see, okay, who's talking this month about protecting your spirit, protecting your psyche, tapping in your own truth. And I'll look and see all the different people that talked about that topic in the last 30 days. That's bypassing an algorithm. And oftentimes I've seen my own videos discussing psychic self-defense, and I realize this is how a lot of people are finding my videos. They're actively going to the keyboard and they're searching for particular topics, right? To fix or solve some sort of problem within. And this is way more important than idle gossip. This is Gnostic information that involves our souls. It would be actually very different, wouldn't it? It would be quite a show if I was to talk like this from a street corner. And if people were to hear a Gnostic message other than the end times is coming, I think society's ready for that. There's more uses for a megaphone other than saying some of the typical things that have been said, to be either for or against a presidential candidate. There are more things that could be said about the need for human compassion through a megaphone at both protesters on the left and the right. Sometimes I'm just there in spirit in Portland, Oregon, and I've got that megaphone, and I am megaphoning the Proud Boys and Antifa at the exact time. And there's a part of me that sees that as pointless, as absolutely pointless. Honestly, I don't know how I could go to a place like Portland, Oregon, a place in which I was born, that I fled several years ago when I saw it collapsing just like the Titanic. I don't know how a person like me can go back to Portland and not say those things. How I could remain silent. I can't. It's like if you see something, say something. But at some point, right, that way of life can be so draining that it's like, forgive them, Father. Forgive them, Mother. Let them find the truth and knowledge on their own. Right? I am merely here, one of many messengers. It's not about one person. It's not about one savior. It's about people that are flowing with the actual, real, natural progression of things. The real natural progression of nature and life building upon life, the building blocks of life on a spiritual level. And that's the flow that we do need to be going with. We may be going against the grain or against the tide or against the flow of the river that the other fish are flowing in the physical earth matrix. But on a spiritual level, we want to align with the flow of what already is. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the